Hi, welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a YouTube thumbnail using GIMP 2.10. Okay, let's go ahead and open up GIMP software. And we'll go to File, New, and we'll set the resolution to 1280 by 720, which is the default thumbnail size for YouTube thumbnails. So let's go and click on the advanced option and set the resolution here to 72. And in the fill width we're going to set it to transparency and we'll click OK. Okay, so when you create YouTube thumbnails, it's really down to your own preferences how you want your thumbnail to look, but I'm going to create one that's kind of similar to the ones that I currently make for my YouTube videos. Although I use Photoshop to do that, you can do something very similar in GIMP, so I want to show you those techniques and maybe you can go and make something, or at least you'll learn some knowledge about using GIMP by following the tutorial. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a border. Right, I want to make a border for my thumbnail, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the rectangle tool here, rectangle selection. If you note that in this latest version of GIMP, which is 2.10.18, when you select options, you can hold down your left mouse button to see alternative options in here in the drop down, right? So if you hold down here, you might see the ellipse tool. If you hold down again, you can select the rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle out here on the canvas. Might be a little bit hard for you to see, but there's a rectangle shape here. And we want to make it exactly the same size, so we're going to set the size here to 1280 by 720. Let's set it to 1280 by 720, and the position values here we're going to set them to 0, and that will make sure the box is exactly the same size as the canvas. And now we want to create a border, so we've got this rectangle selection. Let's go to the color options here. So we've got the foreground and the background color. I'm going to select the foreground color and make it white, and then click on the background one here, the one underneath, and make that black. So just drag your cursor to the bottom left for black and top left for white color. Let's click OK, and then we've got this little arrow option here that allows us to switch the foreground and background color, switch their positions. So we want to make sure black is on top for now. We're going to go to edit and we're going to do a stroke selection. So let's click here. And inside the stroke selection, the line width, I'm going to set it to around 20. You can set it a little bit higher, a little bit thinner. Depends, you can experiment with that. In the line style, I want to set the option here to line, here, right here, line. So dash preset, just set it to line. And pretty much everything else in here I'm going to leave as it is, as you see it here. And we'll click the stroke button. So you can see this black border now. So that's what we want to achieve. Now this is still a selection, so we need to go to select and none. So whenever there's a selection in GIMP, you'll see the little marching ants, those little white dots, and if you ever want to get rid of that, just go to select and none, and then that will remove the selection. Okay, so it'd be wise for us to save our work, so let's go to File, Save As, and then on my desktop I've got this folder where I'm making this tutorial. Let's just call it YouTube Thumbnail. -01. Let's save this. So where I'm saving this file on my desktop, I've got this folder and I've got these little notes here. So we want to download a few things. So let's go and open up the web browser, and inside this web browser I'm going to paste this URL. I'll put a link to this same URL in the YouTube description. We're going to click on this little GIMP icon here, and that will allow us to download the actual logo. So let's click that and we can drag and drop it into the folder. Now we've got a copy of the logo. So with this copy of the logo, let's go back to this thumbnail here that we're designing, and we're just going to drag and drop this picture of this icon. It's called SVG, but it's a PNG file. Let's drag and drop that into GIMP. Now we can see that, but it's way too big, so we're going to press Shift and S. Shift and S. Let's click on the layer itself, and then Shift and S will allow us to scale it. So I'm going to hold down the Control key and use the mouse wheel to zoom out a little bit, so I can see the handles, and then we can drag in. I want to make the logo probably about this size, quite large, roughly around this sort of size, and click scale, and we'll click back on the move tool or press the letter M, and we can drag that to the top corner here. Somewhere around here I think is a good position for the logo, right? Somewhere like there. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add some text. I want to explain what this tutorial is going to be about. So let's click on the text tool, and inside the text tool I'm going to select a font called Impact. Let's try and find this font, Impact Here it is, impact condensed, it's written here. And we will we need to choose a color, right? Do we want it to be black, white, red, blue? You can pick any color you like. If you don't want it to be black, I'm going to show you how to change that in a moment. For now, we're going to use black font, and we're going to click into the canvas, and I'm going to use the uppercase only. So I'm going to hit the caps lock key, and I'm going to type in the word GIMP first. Let's hold down the control key. We can zoom in and use the middle mouse to pan the screen. So I think around that sort of font size is good. It's set to 110. If you don't like that color, you can press Control A to select all of the characters. Click here, and you can choose a different color. You can choose red, for example, then it'll be red, or whatever color you want. I'm going to stick with black for now, and then I'll click on the move tool, and then just move that text up a little bit here, somewhere like here. I've got the word GIMP. I'm just telling people what this application is going to be about, so it's a good word to put in there. Let's use another text tool. So we'll click back on the text tool, and this time I'm going to type in YouTube, and I want to make that a bit smaller text. So let's press Control A to select all of the text, and there's an option here to grow and shrink the text. Right, I want to shrink it down a bit, probably to about 80 point, and then I'll click the move tool and drag that around here somewhere. Now it's a little bit hard to see things, so it would be wise for us to maybe add a white background while we continue our work. I think that would be a smart move. So we've got a background here. Let's just hide it. That's actually our border. So let's double click here and type in border here. And really that border should sit probably at the top layer, right? Because it's probably the top object, you could say. And we want to create a new layer. So let's click on this. This here is going to be our logo, right? So you can turn these layers off and on to see what they are. And you should try and label them. So as you're working, you can understand what these things are. So we'll click on this logo, and we'll click here down in the bottom left hand corner to create a new layer. Or you can just right click in the layer here and select new layer here as well. Let's select new layer, and we're going to fill it with transparency. Click OK. We're going to drag that to the bottom, so you can drag these layers up and down. We'll drag it to the bottom, and here we're going to just type in background. And for now, we'll switch these over. This is why it's nice to have black and white set up here, because you can just switch them to the other side. Then we can click here, and right now it's set to the gradient tool. So if we hold down the left mouse button, we can select the bucket fill tool, and we'll select the background here. It's set to white color, and we'll click in here. Now it's white. Let's just click here, and let's see. Let's drag it all the way to the top left hand corner. I can still see little checkered dots in the background. If I click again, now it's just plain white. Yeah, just plain white is what we want. I'm only putting white color just so I can see things a bit more clearly. Maybe we'll change the background or put a picture there or something different afterwards. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on the YouTube text here. I'm going to add another text object. So let's click new text. We'll click inside the canvas, and we want to do GIMP YouTube thumbnail. So you can see the text is white and the background is white, so that doesn't help us. Let's press Control A, and we can just, in theory, we should be able to just switch this, right? But it doesn't turn it to black. So let's click here and drag to the bottom left hand corner, and then that text will be black. But I actually want it to be uppercase, so I'm going to select it all, hit the caps lock key and type it in again. And it's way too big, so let's press Control A to select all of the objects, Control and A, and then we'll make that a bit smaller. Probably that was 80 point, right? Around 70 I think would be good. Let's click the move tool, and then we can just drag and drop that around here. You can see our alignment is going to be a bit off. We're just not aligning things very well. So we've got the ruler here, so we can see view. Let's find the ruler in here. Let's see. Show guides. There should be a ruler in here. Show ruler, right? This option here. So we need to enable that, and we need to make sure show guides is enabled here as well underneath the view. Then you'll see the ruler at the top and the bottom here, and from this left hand side we can drag across a guide, so we can leave a gap here. So this little guide will now allow us to click on things like this thumbnail text and snap it to the guide here, so it will align properly. Then we can click on the YouTube text, drag that out and snap it back again. We can click on the GIMP text, drag that out and snap it back again. It's nicely all aligned, and we can even click on the logo, drag that out and snap it back. You can push past the guide if you want, but it's a nice way to just align things clean, right? So all your text is lined up nicely. Sometimes you've got to tweak it a little bit, so you can click on this GIMP text and then just use the arrow keys if you want to move them on small increments, right? You can use the arrow keys here just to move it slightly. Okay, so we've got our text here, our rough sort of layout. I just want to add one more text object, so let's click the text object. We'll click on thumbnail here and we'll click inside here. I'm just going to write in tutorial, because that is exactly what it is. I kind of like my thumbnails now, as I'm designing them recently. I just kind of like them to state exactly what people should expect when they click on this video, right? They should expect to see a GIMP YouTube thumbnail tutorial. That's what I want them to see. So I just kind of lay it out like this. Now up in the top corner, I want to put like a little logo or something. So what we do is we'll click on this tutorial text and we'll create a new layer, and that will be set to transparency. We'll click OK, and then we need to select the rectangle selection tool here as well. And then we're going to draw out a box. We're going to left click with our mouse, and as we're dragging, we're going to hold down the control key, then hold down the shift key, and that will constrain this box. And we want the box to be about this size roughly, all right, something around this sort of size like this. And now we've got this box here, we can go to edit and we can fill it with the foreground color, the black color. In these little dots on the side, it will show you what the color actually is active at present. We're going to fill it with the foreground color, so we've got this black box. And what we need to do is go to, let's go to image. No, actually, let's go to layer, and we need to crop to selection here. Crop to selection. So basically what's happening there is the box will be exactly this, or the selection will be now exactly the same size as the box. So when we rotate it, we're not rotating a massive object like this whole canvas, we're just rotating the box now. So we can go to select none, then we can click on this layer where we've got this square box, and we can go to the rotation tool. So let's click here and select rotate. Let's do that again, select the rotate tool here, or shift R, and we set the angle to 45 degrees and hit enter, and then we just click rotate here and it will rotate it. Let's click the move tool and we drag it up to here, so we get this triangle shape now, right? You can have a big triangle, you can have a little one, but I want to make it roughly around that sort of size, something like this, something around here. And you can play around with this and adjust it as you like. I think around here should be pretty good, something like this size. And then I'm going to click back on the text tool. We should call this layer, let's just call it corner, something like that will make sense. Always press Ctrl S to keep saving your work as you go along. We'll click back on the text tool. Let's click on the canvas. I'm just going to type in DCP. That's the letters of my YouTube channel, my business name, just called DCP. And inside the fonts, I want to select a specific font. It's called Bauhaus 93. Let's select that one. It's kind of like my logo, although my logo is a bit different than this. It's kind of the similar sort of shapes to the letters to my logo. And I want to change that to white text, right? Because you can't put black text on a black triangle, it ain't going to work. So let's press Ctrl A to select this. Let's click inside here and drag to the top left hand corner. That makes the text white, and it's a bit hard to see, but it doesn't matter. Really, in theory, what we should do first is click in here, make it black first. So make sure the text is black, then we can resize it. So at least we can see the resize, and then we can judge, will that text fit in here? It probably will. Can maybe make it around 70, I think would be a good size. Now we can press Ctrl A, click here and make it white, and then click OK. Then we'll click on the move tool, so we can move this text now right over here. But we want to actually rotate it as well. We want it to be on the same angle as this sort of line here. You don't have to, but I think it would be nice. So let's go to the rotation tool, click on this text and set it also to 45, and then click rotate. And now you can see it's rotated. Let's click rotate, you click the move tool, and then it's rotated in here like this. And if it's still a bit too big, I don't believe you can, once you've rotated it, you can't actually go in and change the text. You have to undo the rotation. So the other option is you can go to the scale tool, right? So we can click scale, we can click on the text. Let's just move this out of the way. I don't think we can. It would be nice if you can move this box out of the way, but we can't do that. So let's just scale it in a little bit and click scale, and then we'll just go to the move tool and move it in slightly. I think around here should be pretty good, right? So you can put your little logo in the top corner. Normally when I'm working on stuff in here, I'll click back on the background, the very bottom layer, just to see how things are laying out. And I'm quite happy with this so far. So let's press Ctrl S to save. Okay, we can see our background is just this plain white color, and I would like to add a photograph into the background. So if you're making a video, maybe it's about something that you're doing, whatever you're doing, could be about anything, completely anything. Maybe you want to take a photograph from your camera or something like that, and you want to add that into the background. So I'm going to click on this layer. It says background right here now, yeah, this one at the very bottom. And I'm going to open up the web browser, and we're going to go to Unsplash, and we're going to download this picture. So I'll click download. I'll put a link to this same image in the YouTube description so you can download it as well, or you can pick any photograph you like. Now here we've got the picture. We can close down the browser. Let's open up GIMP again, and we need this layer on top, so we can drag and drop this into GIMP. So this is now sitting inside GIMP. You can see it's written here. We should call this background. Let's call this background here. Let's call this background image would be a good word for it. Right, and we've got our white background, and we can switch between them. So let's put that background there. It's way too big, so let's hold the Control key and use the mouse wheel to zoom out. We'll click on the scale tool again, so Shift and S, or click here, and we'll click on the image. Now when you click on the image, you can't actually see the canvas anymore. So I think GIMP really does need some improvements. Maybe it would be wise if GIMP would set the opacity automatically to a lower value so you can actually see the canvas behind. But you know, it's free software, well, we shouldn't complain too much. It's not that hard to select the opacity here. So we're reducing the opacity for the purpose of being able to see our work in the background, so that when we resize, we don't resize too far. We want to resize it so it sits on the outside. Like this will be a good position. We'll click scale, and now we can set the opacity all the way back up. Let's use the middle mouse to pan the canvas around, and use the Control and the mouse wheel to zoom back in. And this is looking pretty good. Right, I kind of like that. That's looking pretty good. But what I would like to do now is add some sort of fade on this side so that the text kind of stands out a bit more. So what we can do is let's go and create another new layer. So I'm clicking in the bottom left hand corner. I'll click on the background layer and create a new layer. So just left click here in the bottom left, and it will be transparent. We'll click OK. So let's call this fade. And what we'll do, let's see. So I want to select the white color. So let's make sure white is on top. We'll click on the paint bucket tool, but select gradient. And inside the gradient options, there's a little swatch here. And you can pick any gradient you want. There's already a lot of these pre-made ones, right? They're already preset. But really what I want is foreground, FG foreground to transparency. You can see it's written there, transparent. So let's click that option there. We'll click that one. It's already actually selected. And then I'm going to hold down the Control key and drag across. And in effect, what I'm doing is I'm dragging across here. Let's say to roughly around here. And I think that's going to be pretty good. And we'll click on the background at the bottom here. And that's kind of been, that's actually implemented. We can click on the move tool just to deselect everything. So we've kind of done this white color that fades to transparent. And that just makes the text stand out a little bit more. It's a bit easier to read on a thumbnail. Really, with this knowledge now, you can go and make any thumbnail that you want. This could have been a photograph of yourself. This could be any text that you want. You can write anything down here. You can write text on this side. You've got quite a few skills and a bit of knowledge to draw shapes and draw borders and start to layer up these this content in this layer stack here, right? For the layers. You can go experiment. You can put any background you want. You can switch out backgrounds very, very quickly. You can just minimize this. Let's just quickly go back to Unsplash, and let's just go to the home page of Unsplash. We'll click on wallpapers, for example, and let's find something in here. Really, I'm looking for something quite light because my text is dark color, so you want to use a light background. If your text is a light color, then we'll try and use a more of a night scene or a darker background. Would make sense, right? So we use a darker colors and lighter colors depending on the fonts that we're using and the sort of the artwork or the image itself. So let's pick something like let's see, let's go to architecture. Maybe we'll find something nice in here. Again, we want something quite light, so let's use this, right? This looks quite interesting. Let's drag that into here. Let's drag that into here, We'll close this. Let's go to GIMP software, and then on this background, where it's got background image here, we'll just drag and drop again, and it will create the layer above. So we're always going to put the layer above. Then we can just hold down the control key. We can see the image is still quite large. We can press Shift and S to scale it. Set the opacity so that you can see what you're scaling. We can scale this right down to something like this. Click scale. Use the control key and the mouse wheel to zoom back in. Alright, do something like this, and then set the opacity all the way back up. You can see the birds and stuff in the background, but when you set your opacity all the way back up, those will all be removed. And this one looks pretty cool as well. Quite like the shapes and everything. You can see like your fade going over the top. If I enable and remove that, right, you can see the fade working there as well. So that's pretty much how I go about making YouTube thumbnails. In all truth, I use Photoshop to do that. But there's no reason why you can't use GIMP to achieve something very, very similar, right? So it's down to you if you want to use free open source software, which is what I like to do. I do quite a lot of things in GIMP as well, and I like using the software. But Photoshop, I just know the tools in Photoshop, and if I'm paying for the software, I might as well use it, right? So I like a bit of both, using both. Let's go to File, Save, and let's go to File, Export As. And we want to export this as a JPEG file. So let's click here and let's select JPEG, and we can just call it YouTube thumbnail-01.jpg is fine. And normally when I upload to YouTube thumbnails, I set them to 100% compression, so we get the best quality to upload. Let's close this, minimize this, and now we can see completed YouTube thumbnail. To tell you the truth, I would have spent a bit more time on this. You know, maybe I would have put a little sort of glow around the edge of the text or do something like that. Maybe I'll show you how to do that in the next tutorial. I'll show you how to outline text. It's quite interesting how to do that in GIMP. But at least you know now how to make a basic thumbnail. For YouTube, you can use any fonts you like. You don't have to use these particular fonts. But try and use fonts that are easy to read, because remember, although I'm showing you this thumbnail quite large on the screen, in reality on YouTube, your thumbnail is going to be much, much smaller, right? It's going to be something even smaller than this. So that text has got to be still readable, or your image or your artwork has to be really, really nice so that people understand. Now, in theory, I could get rid of all of this text and just put the GIMP image there, and a lot of people recognize what that is. But I think writing the text in there helps to explain a bit more about what you're expecting, right? So let's go ahead and close this. Let's close this. I hope you find this tutorial useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP web tutorial.